what about the scene? And that was for me the first indication this movie was not gonna stay the movie that it had been, kind of dark and vicious and oppressive. When he's in a cell with like TVs and jumper cables or some shit, and there's lips that appear in the air, and it's like, you got it, baby. Like, what the fuck?
Feels like a movie made by somebody on drugs.
We're your friends. We're not like the others, man. Really.
No more of that talk or I'll put the fucking leashes on you, understand? Get in.
What's your favorite scary movie?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
This is my boomstick! Swallow this.
Once again, Aaron Ahead Show. Lance Velchek and my co-host, of course, The Arrow. John, this is a special day, man. How you been?
I'm great, man. I mean, life is rocking and rolling. A lot of things going on at the same time. Can't say too much on the Joe Blow sides because I'm kind of keeping it a bit of a secret. But you do know about my film and break. Yeah,
Deadline posted an article today, I believe, or yesterday.
Yesterday. Yeah. So that was really cool. So I've been knee deep in post-production on that. Yeah, it's going to piss some people off, but that's okay. So go ahead. You know what? Ladies first.
Beauty before brains. I'll take it.
That's it. Yeah, beauty before brains. Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the most important section, something that we look forward to, is drinks. Today, because it's a special occasion, which we'll get into in a moment, I am doing something I never do, which is I usually save a special liquor or something very expensive, and I touch it once, and I usually put it on the shelf, and I make sure I don't do it until it's the right occasion. But today's that occasion. Exactly.
That's discipline, bro.
And so I'm going right back to what I had last episode, which is the Johnny Walker 18. Thank you, my buddy Brad, for the going away presents. Okay. So I have been making my own mojitos, and I usually sit in the sun for like a half an hour every day just to enjoy life. And so I got myself a little something light. Yeah. What about you?
Bullet rye.
Okay.
Well, like you said, it's a special occasion. For those of you that don't know, my good buddy Lance here confessed to all of us that he had never seen Shocker, which, shocked all of us.
Yeah, become a running theme, actually, of people going...
It was. Yeah, people telling you go fuck yourself. You deserved it.
It was nice. Felt loved.
And today's the day, right? Please tell me you watched a fucking movie.
Watched it a few times.
To make up for all the years?
Well, yeah, I bought it. So I was like, I watched it. I watched the commentary. Yeah, and that's the thing is, I could have seen this a while ago, but I refused to see something classic and not own it. So I was like, you know what? And the problem is, the reason I didn't do this 10 episodes ago, John, the reason this has taken so long is because anytime I buy a movie, because I love movies so much, I end up just I bought a bunch more. So it's like, and I can't be spending money. I just moved. I'm in debt. But I'm glad. I'm actually glad about it. I'm really glad to jump into it. Cheers, my old friend, and cheers to the audience and anybody who's listening.
Cheers, everybody.
Hello, my friends! Hey! Yeah!
Let's have a good time. Let's talk about what should have been a franchise, Shocker.
We are here today to bear witness to the execution of Horace Pinker.
Now, Wes Craven brings you his greatest creation. Shocker.
I'm sure nobody thought it'd be a huge hit. Nobody thought that Freddy Krueger would become an icon and, spawn sequels. At a certain point, Bob Shea, who was the head of New Line, did cut in Craven at a certain point, financially wise, when Freddy started to pop a lot, so he brought him on Dream Warriors, and then, they did, of course, New Nightmare and such. But he lost out on money because he didn't have a claim on the character or the money that the sequels would make. So Shocker was kind of like his, okay, I fucked up. I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to have, control. And if Horace Pinker, would become another Freddy, which was the intent, he would have cashed big, so.
And I'll say this because I've come at this so late. I think one of my favorite things to do is when I get to watch something from the 80s or the 90s that I've known of but haven't seen. because without any nostalgia, everything is crystal clear. And this is almost more Nightmare on Elm Street than I expected, because I know that we've talked about this in the last episode. And I actually made a good point when I edited that episode, when you mentioned Shocker, to not really scrub through the movie because I didn't want to ruin it. So I would just blindly get a clip that I knew that you're talking about a girl. I got the girl, you got the guy, I got Pinker, you know. But now that I watched it, the amount of dreams, the amount of ghosts, the Freddy sort of esque imagery and style, it's almost hilarious because I'm like, oh, this is like I don't want to say a knockoff because clearly the guy, it's his creation. But
it's his creation. But he's knocking himself off.
Yes. It's there's that famous story when John Fogerty got sued and went to the Supreme Court because one of his songs sounded like Run Through the Jungle, but he wrote Run Through the Jungle. So it's like, you can't sue me on my own song. You can't claim that I'm ripping myself off. And I felt like this is exactly that. He almost redid his album, is how I look at it. Only like he did his own remake, only he changed it. That's what Shocker is.
I mean, look, you got, opening an M&M Street, Freddy ding, 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 building his gloves, opening a Shocker. It's even the way it's shot is very similar. You have the use of dreams. You have the use of everyday appliances used against, the heroes or the victims. So Freddy, the phone, I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy. Shocker is the lazy boy chair that comes to life, and
the eyeballs.
Was like eyeballs. And it's funny because Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger gets you in your dreams. Horace Pinker gets you through electrical appliances, gets you through body hopping. Rewatched it recently. I totally forgot about the body hopping. Like he's possessing people, like Fallon or The First Power. It's like everything but the kitchen sink was tossed at them. Freddy had the red and green sweater and the fedora, and Horace Pinker had the orange jumpsuit. Go in balls deep.
Don't tell Dad. Get over here.
I want to ask this question. Did you like it?
I loved it. I would say my biggest takeaway is that it was actually not the movie I expected. I've seen the cover as a kid, and seeing like random little things throughout my childhood. I always thought this movie was him in that sort of transitional space, killing people, like the body hopping, the ghosts. It's an amazing movie that is so tonally wild. Like I would almost say Wes Craven is not a man to do drugs, and after listening to commentary, he's a very calm, well-spoken man. But this feels like a movie made by somebody on drugs.
We're your friends. We're not like the others, man. Really.
No more of that talk or I'll put the fucking leashes on you, understand? Get in.
What I like about this movie and what I took away from my first or second rewatch was the bizarreness of it. It goes so far. Like you said, everything in the kitchen sink. I didn't know that. So, I mean, the body hopping I knew once you told me in our last episode, but it shifts. Like the ghosts come in, and then all of a sudden it's an action movie, it's a rock movie, but then it's this drama, it's a love story, then it's this like weird cool effects thing, and Horace Pinker is like a rock and roll character. I had no idea. I don't know, because you always said he's like the next Freddy Krueger, so I thought he's going to be a very stoic man, maybe a line here and there, a witty line. That motherfucker talks the entire time.
It's hard to outrun Ready Kill One, asshole. Ah, so you had to bring Daddy along, huh? I'll give you a show.
Looking at Shocker, I love it for exactly the reasons I didn't love it when I first saw it. You look at the first like 35, 40 minutes when, they go and hunt down Horace Pinker in the house. The cops are going there, and there's televisions with corpses or like lakes, if I remember correctly, and stuff. And he's whacking them one by one. And it's unnerving. It's suspenseful. It's dark. He's not a funny guy at first. He's an evil motherfucker, man. He's violent. He's Freddy on steroids, But then after he gets shocked, after he gets the chair and he comes back, they turn him into Freddy circa part 4, where he's goofy. I was always disappointed that Mr. Craven didn't keep to the tone of the first act before he gets executed. But today, I appreciate it. He just went all in, man, all out and all in, all everywhere, man. He said, yeah, fuck it. Let's just rock and roll. And, the soundtrack kind of echoes the film itself. It's a rock and roll movie, man.
Craven has come out hardcore against the later Freddys. He's like, he's too fucking jokey. He talks too much. Hence why in New Nightmare, Freddy said almost nothing, was barely in the movie, and was creepy as hell. And I love New Nightmare, but I know we've talked about him. Some people do, some people don't. Horace Pinker, what surprised me is he was Freddy 4. And I'm like, well, what the fuck, man? You were so against it. And then you have the chance to create your own character. Not that that's bad, but I remember thinking like, am I supposed to root for him? Because he walks that line where I'm like, I know he's evil, but he's so aggressive and sort of over the top that yes, I find him like, I was laughing with him. I was like, you know.
Sweet, go. Shut up!
He's stretching his fingers to get into the socket. Yeah. He has the lazy boy, like everything about him. I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool.
What about the scene? And that was for me the first indication this movie was not gonna stay the movie that it had been, you know, kind of dark and vicious and oppressive. When he's in a cell with like TVs and jumper cables or some shit, and there's lips that appear in the air, and it's like, you got it, baby. Like, what the fuck?
It is just a weird amalgamation of probably everything in his head. And then I listened to the commentary. He was going through a real nasty divorce at the time, and he just had this like mean sense of humor. And I was like, okay, that makes more sense, because there's a lot of humor in this that I almost wondered was either intentional or unintentional. I couldn't tell. Like the little girl that you mentioned in previous videos, like,
so when Pileggi, he got the role by showing up in full-on character. He walked into the audition room full-on in character and just started fucking raving like a fucking lunatic and doing his Pinker thing, to the point where the producers started leaning, like going away from him and go hide in this corner of the room because he was so scary. Right away, he got the role. But the film started shooting before he showed up. So he was like, you know, they told me I had to get a limp, so I developed this crazy ass limp. But the first person they shot that had the limp was the little girl. So the little girl started doing her, you know, drag the foot. And, you know, so by the time he got to set, start doing the shtick, he's like, yeah, I got the limp down and everything. No, Mitch, sorry, but little girl established the limp. Now everybody that was getting body possessed would have to do that foot drag.
Yeah, the dragging, yeah.
Foot dragging limp. So I thought it was funny. It's a I don't give a fuck movie. I don't give a fuck. Oh, tones all over the place, fuck you. Oh, body hopping, yep. Dreams, yep. The finale, you know, through the TVs and everything like that. Yeah, fuck you. So he didn't give a shit.
Get out of my way, bitch. I need a body.
Go back to hell where you belong, Pinker.
We've been kissing the movie's ass now for long enough. What did you not like?
Okay, so this is where it gets a little more complicated, because the first thing that comes up when you say flaws of Shocker, to me, is the dialogue. And again, I can't tell though if it's because I'm watching an 80s movie or it just has that like surface level dialogue where everybody's kind of, instead of emoting, they're saying their feelings. And then there's a lot of movies in that time period did it. So I'm not blaming Shocker, but like, you know, one of my favorite things is the cop dad. And I wrote it down because I'm bad at names. So let me get my notes.
It's Michael Murphy.
Michael Murphy, yes.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Now, I love him in this, but he's also hilarious because everything he does is so over the top. He has the long duster and he's always smoking cigarettes. It's just like, yeah, you gotta get out of here, kid.
How come you're so interested in the doctor all of a sudden, huh? Pinker is dead, John. Go home, get drunk or something. Then you get the hell home and let me deal with it.
For me, a lot of dialogue was cheesy, and that's it, you know. And sometimes you watch a movie and you're kind of like, that didn't feel right. So then you think, is it the actor or is it the lines? And in this particular case, I thought it was, some of the dialogue was really cheesy, especially from poor Camille Cooper, who's most likely a great actress, although I've never seen her in anything else.
I think she retired after this. I think she just lived a different life.
That's what happens. You got a bald guy chasing you around, you know, whatever. Which, by the way, was a ballsy move, man. Just like totally as an aside. I didn't anticipate the girlfriend getting whacked so early.
No, and becoming a ghost.
A ghost. I definitely did not anticipate that. And the necklace stuff, which is probably my least favorite things of the movie, is the love angle, really. As you said, it feels surface. So it feels fake. I don't buy they're in love and I love and
they're like 18 or 17. You know? Yeah.
Exactly. Although they're 50, you know, for real, you know, the actors. I love the 80s and 90s where teenage, like 18, 17, they're played like 20, 30s.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
You told me off camera a while back, I think you either know or you have some sort of relationship with Peter Berg.
Peter Berg, we're not bum buddies or nothing. I met him in Washington. It was a thing for Lone Survivor. In Shocker, he was only an actor. It was actually his first role. And he would tell Mitch Pileggi, one day I'm going to become a big director. And he did it. Peter Berg wound up, you know, directing Very Bad Things, which was his first film as a director, which I loved, with Christian Slater. But he directed Lone Survivor, which I fucking loved, with Mark Wahlberg. And they had an event in Washington. They flew me down and everything. And I got to talk with him and I brought up Shocker. Of course, I'm going to bring up Shocker. I'm like, so dude, man, Shocker, man, what the fuck? And we just started talking about it. He had a blast. Everything was a big smile on his face talking about it. And at some point, I'm like, straight up between you and me, would you do a Shocker too? He's like, fuck it. He's like,
that's awesome.
If Wes Craven would come to me for Shocker 2, I'm there. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Good guy, actually. Really solid dude.
Well, speaking of, because the tone is so over the place, I want to ask you, how do you think they would even make this a franchise? And
the same way Nightmare on Elm Street became a franchise, you know, Freddy Krueger's beef is with killing the Elm Street children, which are connected or were connected to the parents that whacked him. His MO goes beyond that. He just likes to kill people. He's a serial killer. Before he gets executed and comes back as this thing, and of course he has this thing with Jonathan and all that stuff, he's still a serial killer. So if I would do a Shocker Part 2, I wouldn't connect it. Peter Berg's like the Nancy, you know, of the series, so maybe he can come back Dream Warrior style. But he's just back and going through, you know, shit and killing people, going through TVs and stuff and killing people, just like Freddy did with Dreams. And I know for a fact that Mitch Pileggi would love to be in a Shocker sequel, but not as Horace Pinker, because the role took quite the physical toll on him. And he's an older gentleman now. And he's like, you know, I'll play something else, but I'd be in it, but I wouldn't play Horace Pinker. Which is sad because he's still, you know, that's the thing about bald guys. You know this, I know this, he knows this, is that you age, but you kind of always look the same because your haircut hasn't changed in 50 fucking years.
So I guess it brings us to favorite scenes. And I'll let you start because this is something that you're a little bit familiar with. But what is your, I got a couple things.
You know what, there's so many. I mean, you know, right, even the first time I saw the movie in 89 and, you know, it opens up with him working on TVs. Right away, I'm like, Elm Street, right away. So, but I like that. It's a nice homage, tells the audience, this is what I'm going for. I'm doing another Freddy. And so for me, as a huge Freddy fan, a huge Wes Craven fan, for him to announce it so boldly out the gate, it was kind of like, fuck. So I still, even now when I watch the movie today, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So, you know, that, the scene, which I mentioned before, unless we edit it out, where the cops, you know, break in to his place, his compound, if you will, with the TVs, yes. and which I always found really unnerving.
Except, hold on.
His monologue, pardon me?
Now, let me jump in though, real quick. That scene's amazing, but the only issue I have is that at the end of that scene with the cop on the hood, he's like, and it's cheesy as shit, but everything before that was like, yeah.
I bought it. I bought it. But I like Steel Soul.
I liked his hideout. I agree with you. It was really cool. I wish they like used that more, you know?
Of course, the monologue when he gets executed and he talks to Peter Berg, aka John. It's a Jonathan, by the way. It's not John. It's Jonathan.
Oh, I put John. I was just sure.
Who gives a shit?
John. Yeah.
He's like, you know, when he kind of recounts a story, how he came and, you know, shot him in the leg with that big gun. He's really going for it, Pileggi, you know, in that bit. So I love that scene. But even when I think it's the prison nurse, she gets possessed. I mean, yeah, exactly. You know, want some head or some shit like that. You know, the little girl in the truck, the end fight scene through TV land. But yeah, what about yourself? Any scenes that stick out?
So the first one that caught me was the execution scene, because I think that's when the tone really changed. Like obviously before, when he has like the jumper cables and the fucking TV, and that's ridiculous. You know, they had this nerdy prison guard walk by, and it's like, bah, bah, it has this really cheesy 80s metal music. I always say like it's what the 80s did best is everything was exaggerated, but they try to make it real. Like it's not Tim Burton-esque where they take a scene like a man getting executed and it just is out there. Mitch Pileggi, as Horace Pinker says, which I like about his characters, he has this like drawl that is there sometimes, not others. He drops it randomly because that's the movie we're in. Goes, I used to beat you real good, boy.
I used to beat you good, boy. I was beating you good when your mama tried to stop me with a gun.
And I was like, all right, cool.
Man's got to relax, right?
Bernie Lomax, yeah.
Ah, shit.
It set up what I like about the movie, which is like, okay, there's no rules. We're just having a good time.
Yeah, we're going balls in, man.
And speaking of one of my other favorite parts, and my favorite parts are not what I think other people would pick. There's a part where Jonathan or John, Peter Brook's character, comes back after the tussle with the jumping of the bodies, and he goes back to the gymnasium, and his coach basically goes over the entire plot. It's my favorite thing. He goes like,
"Are you saying that Pinker is alive somehow, and he just jumps in and out of people like a goddamn clap or something?"
But I love it that they wrote that in. The coach
and that dude sells it, man. He's good, man.
And then the last part is jumping through all the cool scenes in the TV, which I liked because it's effects-wise was probably the most convincing. I was actually very impressed that they did it. But they end up in like what I believe to be like the middle America. And I'm from the Midwest, so I could talk as much shit as I want. I'm not from the coast here. They end up in this slob of a family. It's very like white trash or very very Midwest. And this woman who
it chips all over her.
Yeah, and she has her curls. Yes.
Yeah, like a caricature of.
Yeah, I mean it's clearly the whole thing ugly, like green, yellow shag carpet. Horace Pinker and Jonathan and John are fighting, and they fight into her plants and her trees, and she goes,
"Wait a minute, that's my tree!"
So ridiculous because these people jumped out of TV.
I know.
Are alive, and she cares about her plants, and she's just like she has like the accent. I love it. It's actually like probably one of the better scenes, and then they jump into the game show that has Timothy Leary as the host. I mean, I think that's a good point of what this movie is.
And I would like to talk about the music.
Well, yeah, this is back when movies had soundtracks. Now I'm talking about like a movie would make a soundtrack, and I grew up with that stuff, so I would love to.
I go by the cassette. Yeah, I have the cassette of the Shocker soundtrack. You know what a cassette is?
When I was in 5th grade, I went and bought Down the Upside a cassette. I have cassettes. I'm not that young. Yeah, come on now.
Yeah, so I have the cassette. Soundtrack was amazing. I listed, well, actually, I don't even need to look at my list. 2 songs that like come out to me. One of them is called Demon Bell by Toys. What's it called?
Dangerous Toys, it looks like.
Dangerous Toys. And I always remember the lyrics. I'm not going to sing the whole thing because I'll probably trip on my tongue and make a fool of myself. But it was something like, I was born without a soul inside. So I'm gonna rip out your heart and try it on for size. You remember that shit?
I remember it in the movie.
Hey, fuck you, man.
You're older. This is not my music, man.
Anyways, I always loved that song since I was like, a teenager. That song.
But you did.
From the movie, Go Fuck Yourself. The second song, it was a song by Bonfire, Sword and Stone.
I'm looking at it, yeah.
And I just realized what it's about right now. I am the sword, you are the stone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, God bless the fucking 80s and the 90s, man. But they would use these childish analogies, if you will, to basically talk about sex. Today, it's like, I got my face, right there in that pussy, they're like clean, straight up, But back then, it's a sword and a stone, bro, God bless, man.
The closest I get, like Iggy Pop's in here, and I'm a big Stooges guy, and I love Pop.
Megadeth.
But I don't know shit about Megadeth. I don't know about Dangerous Toys, Dead On, Dudes of the Wrath, Bonfire. I'm just not a Megadeth guy.
Did the opening song "Shocker" with Paul Stanley.
Shaka, yeah. Shaka, yeah. I mean, it's so. I should also say this: every time I've ever been to a convention, like everybody's in like metal t-shirts, leather coats, and fucking leather jackets, and I have like a Hawaiian t-shirt. I'm like, who here likes us for weeks? So it's like I've never belonged anyway. But I mean, I thought that the music was very appropriate. Like it made the movie something else. Like this is a good example of if you just replace the songs in the movie with a serious score or something else, it does change the tone, even if the tone is always over the place. I think these sort of like cheesy metal, like really adds.
Cheesy. What are you talking about, cheesy?
Well, all music's cheesy if you want to go back to it,
There's nothing cheesy about the music in Shocker.
Shaka! I mean,
it's great fucking 80s, 90s rock, man.
I'm just saying, I thought that it was very appropriate. I'm glad they kept it. Now, I don't know if you know this, watching the commentary on the movie, Craven actually regrets using rock sounds. He's like, I don't know if it exemplifies the scene like I wanted to. And it's like, I know, and here's the thing, like I feel a little more conflicted because it's like, as a director, I'm like, hey man, I get that you created this movie, but the music actually probably outlived the movie more than the fucking movie. So it's like the music actually made it probably what it is. So
I wouldn't go that far. I think the music dates the movie.
Yes, but the movie
That's for
dates
sure.
itself.
If he had an orchestral throughout, then the movie wouldn't feel as late 80s as it does. But because he had late 80s rock music, then it really like solidifies. This movie is not, what's the term they use? Evergreen. You know, it's not evergreen, this movie, man. This movie is late, and it's 89, so I'm going to call it 90s, man. It's a 90s fucking horror movie, man. It's a 90s fucking horror movie, 90s fucking rock, man.
They just cement that time and place. And this to me is, I know you keep saying 90s. I always feel like late 80s just because like this music is so late. Like this is 80s music to me.
For me, it's 90s.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I think the 90s is like Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, but as much as I love the 90s, I do believe there's a course correction that kind of shit on things like this, you know, like Scream, as much as I like it, didn't have the balls that Shocker had, you know?
No, it didn't. And you know, but Scream was needed, you know, and I don't want to start another show on this show.
No.
Scream was needed because
Yes.
horror was hurting.
Yes.
So Scream kind of brought it back to life. In terms of closing on Shocker, I got two things to say. The first one is it's better to burn out than fade away.
I have something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Number two, just because I found something online and, you know, I'll send it to you after we finish the show, to reinforce how much they were trying to make Horace Pinker the next Freddy Krueger. I found a thing on a heavy metal show where Horace Pinker showed up as Horace Pinker, introducing heavy metal music videos. And which is very, you know, parallel to a much more minimal standpoint. And Freddy, who wound up in Dream Warriors, Dawkins, Fat Boys, video. Freddy was everywhere. Yeah, that's the only thing from in terms of Horace Pinker that I found of him outside the movie using the persona to promote the film. I mean, Kane Hodder showed up on Arsenio. I'm sure Robert Englund as Freddy showed up in a bunch of fucking talk shows. But Horace Pinker, that's the only thing that I found. So
they tried, is what you're saying.
We're going to play it for you now.
Happy Halloween, headbangers. There's more spine-tingling metal on the way from Annihilator.
You're dead meat, Cooper. God!
What's the matter, Horace? Don't like my new Pinker-proof jacket?
So that's it. Shocker fucking owns, man. It's a staple of its time.
Yeah. I mean,
and you know what? I like the original poster better, personally.
Yeah. That's... Oh no, that's the cool thing about Shout Factory is that
they do their own art, yeah.
But they also reverse it.
Nice.
So if you want to, because I did the same thing with Candyman, where it's like the original Candyman art was better than the new shit. So because John, I respect you, and this is your movie, I'm going to put the old school artwork into the box.
That's the way it should be, my friend. There you go. Now that looks familiar.
But everything about Shocker to me was just fun, and it sucks that it doesn't exist. But you know what? Like, I at least get stuff like this now. Because clearly the way the film business is, obviously, if it's not independent like you, the shit that gets greenlit is so carbon copy and boring. You know, it's like, I got to look otherwise. Seeing something like this makes me happy.
Recommendations. We don't do this every show, but right now, okay, what are films do you think are parallel to Shocker you would recommend to people? I got a couple in my nutsack, but you have any ideas on your end? Or?
So it would be possession and horror. I mean, I guess... No, how about this? Go first, so I'll make sure that we're not crossing.
Well, Shocker, there you go. You know, I was waiting for you to have nothing to jump in. Shocker was around the time where there was a people that get the chair and come back trend. So we had the horror show. We had Prison by the great Rennie Harlan, who of course directed Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And Prison starred Viggo Mortensen. You should check it out. It's fucking awesome. One of his early roles. The horror show, which is also known as House 3, with Brian James and Lance Henriksen. And of course, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course, most likely Fallen because of the body hopping element.
Time is on our side, right? Rolling Stones,
yeah, exactly. Do you have any suggestions on your end, or are you just?
Well, I do. It's not necessarily in the genre that we want to talk about, but I'm gonna make a little leap because I think it's appropriate now. One of my favorite movies of all time, and because
Deadly Friend.
I haven't seen Deadly Friend. No,
exactly.
I'm going with Prison, and we're talking about. I know it's a
horror.
Oh,
No Escape, baby.
One of my favorite movies I grew up in.
I know why you bring this shit up, dude. Martin Campbell directed that shit.
Yes.
GoldenEye and Casino Royale, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorite movies. And again, this is from a Hollywood Video when the video store disbanded in like, I don't know, 2003. I've been waiting for Blu-ray. But the reason I bring this up, and again, I'm breaking the rules because I know we always stick to horror, but it's certainly genre. And it's something I do believe would be on Nail on the Head back in the heyday. Pour a little bit of a drink because...
I'll drink straight out of the bottle for Mr. Liotta, yeah.
Ray Liotta, a man's man. I'm talking the epitome of cool. No Escape, Goodfellas, Field of Dreams, Narc.
Unlawful Entry.
Oh, yeah, with Kurt Russell. Amazing role.
Which is like the Ray Liotta buffet, where you see him affable, you see him psycho, you see him violent, you see him sad. Probably one of my favorite 90s thrillers. We had the whole 90s thriller thing. He was fucking amazing. And I'm as shocked. Well, I don't know if people are shocked, but I was shocked. And I'm sure you were shocked that he passed at 67 in his sleep while filming a movie. Such a young age.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome actor.
Every time he appeared, and no matter what it was, he really had the intensity. Like I always say this, we're missing like the old-fashioned male character. And I don't mean that in a misogynistic sense, but like he had an intensity that I loved. Where I feel like nowadays it's just not in style, but like every time he showed up, I was like, fucking Ray Liotta.
Even in fucking Copland, man.
Yeah,
Copland, he's the tits.
Yeah.
But don't forget who it was that you came to 2 years ago to cover your ass.
Get him out of here, Freddy.
Guys, Lance edits the show. Of course, I supervise because he's a little dangerous sometimes. But we're gonna drink to Ray, and we're gonna talk about what we're gonna talk about next show. But at the end of the show, you're gonna put that Goodfellas laugh, man.
Easy. I'm gonna load this up with Ray Liotta. I'm just fucking Ray Liotta in. All right.
Ray Liotta, man. And I never got to work with him. That pissed me off. Anyways, cheers. Oh shit, that's rough. Straight. That's when fucking. It's like what, the 8th sign of the apocalypse. Ray Liotta passes. Okay, we're on our way out. Yeah.
No, anyways. I know. All right, John. So I guess that brings us to. I know we don't always do this, but I'm feeling generous. What is the next episode?
You know what? I'm gonna keep with the thematic of films I saw when they came out that I was kind of but in time, like now, I understand. And there's no movie where I feel that vibe more than Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare by Rachel Tallahay.
Okay, cool. I'm excited.
It is a movie that I fucking hated when it came out. I hated it. But today, different story. So we'll talk.
Next episode is Freddy's Dead. John?
Yeah.
Until then, my friend, you stay safe, okay?
Yeah, and you stay cool. Be good, brother. And cheers to all you guys.